Duo Yu Wang is a hapless loser. He plays as a goalkeeper for a lower league football team and looks set for a life of poverty and dejection. His career is failing, and as a result, he tries finding different jobs. In one instance, he worked as a nude model, while in another, he disguised himself as a girl to be the goalkeeper in a women's football tournament. One day, he's summoned by his opponent team's coach, Mr. Jin. The coach wants Wang to lose the game in their next match, in exchange for handsome money. Desperate for the money, Wang accepts the deal. The following day at the match, everything goes as per the agreement. Wang's team loses 0-5 against Mr. Jin's. While players from Wang's team are upset that he let in 5 easy goals, the opponents congratulate and praise him for helping them win the match. After learning that Wang took bribes for the game, his coach immediately fires him. Wang pleads with the head coach that it wasn't his intention to do so and asks to be re-signed in the team. Unfortunately, his plea falls on deaf ears. In the following scene, Wang and his best friend, Qing, drive back to the former's apartment. Along the way, they stop by when a bird excretes in the car's window. Just then, a man carrying his groceries pretends that he's been hit by Wang's car and demands money for treatment. Already frustrated, Wang and Qing get out of the car and carry the man to wipe off the bird's feces. A woman in her scooter notices the deed and starts recording it. She mistakes Wang and Qing for bullying the poor, pretentious con man and demands justice for him. Soon, a mob gathers around and protests that Wang and his friend be sent to jail. As expected, the two men are held in custody. However, Mr. Jin has their accounts settled and gets them out of the prison. In Mr. Jin's car, Wang is confused as to why the opponent's team coach would help them out. The coach reveals that he has something to say to Wang that will likely get him out of his unfortunate life. In the next scene, Mr. Jin, who also happens to be the head of insurance giant Xi Hong Life, takes the two men to his lavish estate where he introduces Wang to Mr. Yin and Mr. Lai, managers from the Guangmin Trust Fund. He then reveals that a relative Wang barely knew existed, his great-uncle, an insurance billionaire, has recently died in Taiwan and left him the sole heir to a multi-million fortune. However, his great-uncle included a very unusual clause in his will. The will stipulates that if he can spend 1 billion within a month, he will inherit a full sum, which is 30 billion. There are some conditions that he must spend every cent of the money legally in Xihong City, must make no gifts or charitable donations, can hire no more than 100 people, must not destroy any valuable investments, like fine art, must not inflate goods prices exceeding the limits of market value, and the last, he must not tell anyone else about the challenge. If he decides not to accept, he will walk away with 10 million. If he accepts but fails the challenge, he'll get nothing. Hearing all this, Wang is left in utter disbelief. Nonetheless, he accepts the challenge and Mr. Jin has his accountant, Xia Shu, appointed as the personal financial assistant of Wang. It turns out that Shu is the same woman who ignited a protest to jail Wang and Qing earlier. Shu wasn't notified about this, so she's surprised to learn that she has to work for Wang for the next 30 days. And so, Wang's money-spending spree begins. He hires the security guards of a bank to be his bodyguards. He then buys lavish cars and visits his former coach to take over the football team for 10 million. Wang wants to test their team, Da Xiang, against their rival Heng Tai. His coach initially thinks Wang has lost his mind. But when the former goalkeeper rains millions all over the football field, he excitedly decides to go on with the plan. Next, Wang rents the most expensive hotel in the city for a month to make it a hostel for his football boys. The players rejoice in excitement as they were never treated so extravagantly. They impatiently devour lavish food presented to them. At the dining hall, Wang announces that he'll be establishing an investment company, and the CEO will be none other than his dear best friend, Qing. The following day, while Wang is having his 1 million worth haircut, Shu informs him that she's settled the rent money for the hotel. Just then, her boyfriend, Jiannan Liu, who is an educator, arrives at the scene to escort her on a date. Liu reveals that they're going to a show where he's giving a speech on how money isn't everything. But when Wang offers a hefty amount to buy all the tickets to the show, Liu doesn't stay true to his values. He accepts the money and even decides to be Wang's gardener in exchange for additional millions. Having seen Liu's true colors, Shu breaks up with him. Next, Wang interrupts Qing's meetings with the shareholders of his new investment company and buys shares of failing businesses, hoping to lose money. He even invests in crazy schemes such as land swimming. Additionally, Wang promises to give $5 million to a guy who wants to buy diesel engines to extract water from an iceberg and save his village from a drought. One day, the overnight billionaire has a massage therapy session with a masseuse who forces him to get physically intimate with her. Thankfully, Shu arrives at the right time and saves Wang. Then they head for a business meeting with Mr. Yin and Mr. Lai, managers from the Guangmin Trust Fund. In the next scene, Wang and his personal assistant meet Mr. Yin and Mr. Lai at the golf court. He notices that the same masseuse is hanging out with the managers. It turns out that Mr. Yin and Mr. Lai hired the girl to destroy Wang. Then the 30 billion will go to the managers, and they will be settling the fortune in exchange for a handsome commission. During lunch, Wang learns from the managers about Mr. Lafitte, the founder of the investment world, and that lunch with him costs billions of dollars. Wang wastes no time spending his $1 billion and invites Mr. Lafitte for lunch for a whopping 40 million. However, he asks silly questions, offending the famous founder and prompting him to storm out of the hotel at once. Wang continues to throw his fortune into lavish things and live a rich lifestyle. However, he soon finds out that his fortune money has been skyrocketing instead of plummeting. He learns that the stock he invested in earlier went surprisingly up, earning his company at least 100 million. Additionally, the mad land swimming scheme became successful, and the concept is now prevalent in every street of the city. He becomes extremely frustrated while Shu and the others are confused about why their boss is acting like he went bankrupt. The following day, Wang appoints Qing's old schoolmate nicknamed Genius as his CFO, hoping he's as stupid as Qing. Later, Shu learns that Qing and Genius have been spending a lot of money, so she reports it to Wang. But Wang wants them to do exactly that, so he doesn't show any concern. Instead, he's suddenly hell-bent on pursuing Shu. On her birthday, Wang sets up a beautiful firework, hoping to impress her. He even buys a billboard to declare his love for his personal assistant and takes her to a concert. But Shu thinks they're from two different worlds. She initially tries to stay away from Wang, but eventually gives him a chance. Meanwhile, Shu's boyfriend is bribed to do certain work by the two managers who have been plotting a scheme against Wang. One day, Qing and Genius inform Wang that they've just made $1 billion out of the money they invested in poor buildings. It turns out that the government bought the buildings to make schools, so the return is pretty high. This only makes Wang mad, as he could lose the challenge against his great-uncle. He slaps his best friend out of frustration and dives into a swimming pool nearby. This is when he comes up with a plan, that is, fat insurance. In the next scene, Wang announces his latest insurance policy in front of the public. In fat insurance, an individual has to spend only 1 yuan, and in exchange, they'll be paid 1 yuan per gram of fat. For instance, if they lose a kilo of fat, they'll be paid 1,000 yuan. Soon after the announcement, people from all over the city try their best to loosen up and reduce excessive fat for Wang's reward. Everything goes as planned as Wang's money keeps on decreasing. But his scheme also gives a positive outlook on society, winning him the Outstanding Youth of the City award. Next, it's the big day for Wang's football team. Da Xiang is playing the match against Hang Tai for a bet worth 10 million. The Hang Tai players are confident that they'll win the match against such a lower division team. Thus, their game plan is to thrash Da Xiang with a 2-digit score. Moments before the match, Da Xiang players arrive in the stadium via helicopters, surprising Hang Tai players. The game begins, and undoubtedly, Heng Tai takes the lead 9-0 in the first half, shattering Wang and his team's self-esteem. Meanwhile, Shu is on the bleachers supporting her boss. She approaches her ex-boyfriend Liu nearby and tells him that he hasn't reported the balance of 2,000 yuan on the plant lease. This is when Liu reveals to her about Wang's challenge to spend 1 billion to get his great-uncle's full inheritance. He adds that Wang is only pursuing her not because he really likes her, but to squander his money. Liu will return the 2,000 yuan right before the challenge ends, which happens to be the exact plan that the managers Mr. Yin and Mr. Lai have come up with to stop Wang from winning the challenge. Liu then suggests to Shu to pretend she knows nothing about the challenge and play along. In exchange for that, Liu will reward her with 300,000 yuan. But the honest and loyal Shu refuses the offer, and instead storms off to report the foul to Wang. Back at the game, Da Xiang fiercely defends their dignity at a score of 0-9 in the second half. Even the audience and the commentators in the stadium are in full support of the poor Da Xiang team. However, the opponent Heng Tai is determined to accomplish their historic feat of a 2-digit score, so they continue to thrash Da Xiang players, to the point of badly injuring them. But every player from Wang's team is using every ounce to guard their penalty area, and when the whistle blows, marking the end of the game, the score remains at a single digit. Realizing that they did not let the evil Heng Tai players score 2 digits, Wang and the team celebrate their extraordinary hard work and unwavering team spirit. Just then, Wang gets a phone call from an unknown speaker and realizes that Shu has been kidnapped. He then quickly gathers his bodyguards and rummages Mr. Yin and Mr. Lai's place. But the managers do not have Shu. They do, however, reveal that they had Liu fiddle with Wang's bills. Wang then receives a call demanding 10 million to save Shu's life, or else she will be killed. Initially, he gets confused between saving Shu or giving away the ransom money. But since he has feelings for her, he eventually decides to save her. Next, Wang gets the money and takes it to the kidnapper, only to find out that it was Mr. Jin who had faked Shu's kidnapping. He reveals that it was Wang's great-uncle's deed to test whether his great-nephew would choose money over humanity. Mr. Jin then discloses that Wang has earned the overall property, that is, an inheritance worth 30 billion. And interestingly, the great-uncle is Mr. Jin himself, who first tried to bribe Wang and then put all the challenges to find out if his great-nephew is worth the fortune. In the final scene of the movie, we see that Wang and Shu have become a happily married couple. They're also expecting a baby soon.